All right, guys, it's Tim Moen with Fight for the Front Line here. And I am here today with a special guest, Jamie Junod. And Jamie is a firefighter in Leduc who has been on leave without pay since November 1st. And we're trying to save his job. Jamie should be getting back to work here. He should have been working through November and some of December. He should be going back to work in January, but he's not. So I want to introduce you guys to Jamie. And there's going to be a call to action at the end of this interview, and I hope you stay tuned for that. But Jamie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tim. I really appreciate this opportunity to say what's going on with my situation, I guess. So.
Yeah, I mean, this organization, Fight for Frontline, started about 2 or maybe even 3 months ago, man. Since this AHS policy came down, the vaccine mandate, and is threatening the employment of a bunch of frontliners, firefighters, and different things like that. I found out about you through your wife, and your story is particularly unique because while other employers, other contract service providers and fire departments are doing their utmost to keep their staff at work. And, they're having to comply with the AHS policy, but they're following the deadline extensions, right? So AHS came out and said, the first deadline was November 1st. If you haven't complied, you're going to be on leave without pay as of November 1st. All the fire departments said, okay, guys, November 1st, I'm sorry, but you're going to be on leave without pay. Then right before that deadline happened, AHS amended their deadline to December 1st. And all the other departments breathed a sigh of relief and said, hey, good news, guys, we can keep you working for another month. AHS has extended the deadline. Your fire department did not do that. Then they extended it again to January or to December 13th. Mm-hmm. And again, right at the last minute, they extended that deadline, and all the other fire departments breathed a sigh of relief and said, oh, thank God, we can keep you working another 2 weeks and at least hopefully give you a little bit of money for Christmas. Now, AHS has changed their policy once again and said, oh, guess what? We're doing what you guys asked us to do all along. We're going to allow the unvaccinated to be tested on a regular basis to show you're safe for work. This is what we've been fighting for the whole time at Fight for Frontline. And so as of January 10th, now it sounds like healthcare workers, and that includes, I would imagine, contractors, are going to be allowed to, all these employees are going to be allowed to come back to work as long as they're willing to test. Again, you haven't heard boo from Leduc about this, not one word. So that's why you're on this podcast. But I want to find out a little bit more about you. What's your story? Where are you from? What got you into firefighting? That sort of thing.
Wow. I was born and raised in Leduc. I'm kind of one of the few guys here who's actually from the community and has lived here my whole life. I used to be into cars and computers, and I just didn't really fit in with that crowd, though, as far as jobs went. And I knew a couple of guys at the local gym who were firefighters, and like, how do you like your job, right? And they all had the resounding same answers. Like, I love my job. Like, and to me, from a guy who went to my job at the time, and I would count every minute of every day that I was there because I couldn't stand it. Like that was pretty profound, man, to see somebody that I love my job, right? And the other benefit of that, I'd played team sports my whole life, right? So they were talking about the whole team environment, and those two really, and it's a very physical job, right? So the combination of things just really seem to line up with me, right? And I guess that kind of all was kind of around a little bit after a couple of years after the Twin Towers happened. And I remember watching that at school. I was going to college at the time, and that had a definite impact on how I looked at my life. I'm like, wow, I'm fixing people's computers or making sure their networks are running. And what does that really matter at the end of the day?
All right. Jamie's a family man. We had a little interruption there from a kid and a dog. It's a busy household. But Jamie, you were talking about how you watched those Twin Towers fell. Let's pick up there and tell us what that meant to you.
Yeah, well, it just made me feel like what I was doing with my life really didn't matter at the end of the day. And so that again had an impact on my decision on what I wanted to do with myself. Right now, I wanted to help people at the end of the day. I wanted to do something that mattered. Right. And then you combine that with what I had talked about before at the firefighters I knew and how they loved their job. It was a team environment and it was like physically active and fit. And like, that just rang all the bells for me. I'm like, I think that's what I need to do. Right. And I kind of went down the path of like, put my house for sale. And I signed up for ESA and took their actual fire academy and went through that. And I did that in 2005. So I became a certified 10-1 firefighter. And right after that, I was able to get on with Leduc Fire as a volunteer, they called it back then, right? Now clearly like Edmonton in our region is the fire department to be, right? It's the big kahuna. But part of it was I wanted to like serve my community, the people that I grew up with. And at that time, I think Leduc was like, 18,000 people, right? It's almost doubled in size since then.
Right.
But so, I would often go to the grocery store. Anywhere I went, I would run into somebody I knew, right? It was just that kind of place, right? And so I wanted to serve my community. So I got on with Leduc as a volunteer. I did that for a couple of years. And it was like doing odd jobs as kind of work to kind of pay my way in life and pay my mortgage and stuff. But I'm like, I want to do this as a career. So I know at Leduc we had to be an EMT at the time to be a full-time firefighter. So I'm like, okay, I got to go to school. So I went back and took my EMT again at ESA, right? Really, really good school. And got that. And it's like, it's weird. And I don't believe in coincidence at all. So things happen for a reason, right? I'll look at my class number for fire was 0508. My class number for EMT was 0805. And like, I remember getting a phone call from DC Clancy at the time when I was bartending at the Nisku Inn. And it was like late December. And he's like, he was waiting for me. I'm like, have you got your marks back? Have you got your marks back yet? And he was calling me like almost every week, right? And finally I'm like, yeah, I passed. I'm good. He's like, all right, you're starting January, right? And again, luckily at the time, or coincidence, whatever you want to call it, but like Leduc went from having like a very small amount of full-time guys to going to like full-time what did they hire? They hired like 12 guys at one time, really increased their full-time presence, right? And it's like, yeah, just all lined up, right? It was really weird. And I got to go on and be a firefighter, and I loved it. I loved being able to help people, and it was just a great thing. And I've been there with people I've known my whole life when they're passing, right? It was just surreal. Like how many times I've run into people that I've known for a long time who are having a situation. It's like, it can be good or bad, like depending on how you cope with those things. But luckily I have a very positive outlook on life, right? So I look at that as like, I was able to do my best to help you in a really bad time for you and your family. And, as long as I don't screw up, I feel good about that. Right. Like as long as I've done my best to help you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of been my progression. And, I've been, being a family man too, like kind of as all that's going on, like I had my first kid when I was like 21, and, ADHD being what it is, I have some impulse control issues, right? So I've got quite a couple kids, like 5 kids, and they're always at my house and I take care of them. And I kind of valued that above, like, and I'm not judging anybody, but some people think they need to provide for a kid's money. But for me, time is the most important thing, right? So I've always thought I wanted to have my kids with me, and I've always had my kids with me, and I look after them all the time. And 2 of my kids are special needs, so that really
yeah.
that
I
takes a lot.
want to get to your family here in a sec, but for the second, I just want to bring it back to you got into this profession to help people, and specifically your community. I mean, if you're a fire chief, I can see why DC Clancy was excited for you to get your marks and was raring at the bit, because you fit the exact type of person you want in a fire service. Someone who is local to the community, who grew up there, who has deep roots in that community, who has a heart to help and to live a life of meaning, and to take on that specific type of service for the community, because not everyone wants to do that. Not every you talk about being a team player and growing up in team sports. You talk about fitness and working out. You talk about that desire to live a life of meaning. And when you see those twin towers fall, your first impulse is, I need to do something. I need to be one of those guys. That's not a common thing to have. And those are the exact kind of guys. I mean, you fit the mold perfectly for what you would want as a fire chief in terms of your firefighters. Those are rare traits. All of those together in one package are extremely rare. And so I could see why they were excited to have you. And, so how long have you been with Leduc Fire serving the community?
Well, I started as 2006 as a volunteer, and then 2009, I became full-time. So as in total, I've been since 2006, I guess that's 16 years as a member of the City of Leduc Fire Services. So that's the longest time in my life I've been part of anything, really. So that's a big deal to me.
Yeah. Awesome. And in terms of, your workplace, I know that you're very involved in, extracurricular activity. You do fitness training for guys, right?
I do. Yeah. I manage some of the fitness training stuff. I train a couple of guys, and, they're pretty strong guys, like a couple of guys way stronger than me, basically following my tutelage for 4 or 5 years. Right. So, I do that. I love kids, right? That's no shock. So I head up organize a kids' Christmas party every year. It was kind of a Leduc Fire tradition, and kind of went to the wayside for a couple of years. Then I kind of picked it up because tradition is very important in the fire service, and the fire department's a family. So you're supposed to really embrace that. And I thought that was really important. And so I've been organizing that for the last few years. Obviously, since COVID came on, that kind of went to the wayside as well. But those are two of the bigger things I did. And often guys will come to work and be down and stressed out and negative. But I always love to go to work. I always love my job. I'm very proud to be part of the Leduc Fire Department.
One of the things that's really impressed me about you, Jamie, is, we've had a lot of private conversations. I know that this layoff or this leave of absence or whatever has really placed a toll on you. And yet you're able to maintain a positive attitude. You're able to, when I talk to you, I don't get a sense that you harbor any grudges or ill will towards people that you would, understandably have every right to harbor some ill will and bad feelings towards. This has been a family for you for 16 years, and now you've been shunned essentially from it, right? And that is never an easy thing. You talk about, I'm going to get into a bit of how this has impacted you in a bit here, but I want, a lot of people out there might be wondering, well, why aren't you taking the vaccine? So tell us why don't you just get vaccinated? What's the problem? Like, you've got a family, Jamie, why don't you do the responsible thing and, bite the bullet, even though you don't want it? What's going on?
I think the biggest thing to me is I grew up in a religious family, and I definitely believe in following the Bible. And this part in Exodus where it talks about, if a baby is harmed due to strife from two men, then whatever unborn child, so a pregnant woman with an unborn child, if that child is harmed, then whatever harm is laid upon it by the men should be laid upon them right? So basically an eye for an eye,
Right.
life for life, right? So, and that's just is one example. There's many examples in the Bible about that. And basically every vaccine was either developed with or tested with aborted fetal cells from the HEK 293 line. And I can't, with my good conscience, take that, right? It just not possible for me.
Right. Yeah, and you know, that's understandable, and but you should be getting a religious exemption. No, isn't there not in the charter religious exemptions for?
There is, and I've applied for one, and the union right now is going to take that to arbitration to try and make that happen for me, right?
Okay, so your religious exemption has been denied. Others, again, you know, I know other guys on other departments that have gotten their religious exemption accepted on grievance. So, and again, fetal cell lines have been sought. So, and if they provide you an exemption under the, well, I mean, all it means is they have to accommodate you, right? It means that they can have to try to find you other work if you can't ride the ambulance because you're unvaccinated. They find other work for you where you know, and your county, from what I understand, has a policy that says you can either be vaccinated or test regularly. Is that correct? For its employees?
I have to double check on that, but I believe that's the case, and I would totally be open to getting rapid tested to be able to go to work. I have no issues with that. It's the vaccine that's the big issue for me, right?
Yeah, this has everything to do with the AHS mandate, and so your religious exemption has been denied. But at this point, your religious exemption shouldn't even matter anymore because AHS themselves have said, oh, you're exempt as long as you get tested. You don't have to be vaccinated as of January 10th. So, okay, so we have a good understanding of why. I mean, you just have a deeply religious view on this. You don't want to support anything that has to do with abortion in any way. You can't live with yourself or your conscience because of your religious faith and your beliefs. And, you know, you probably are the type of guy who would never so deeply wound his integrity and still be able to look himself in the mirror and be the kind of father and man you want to be for your children. Is that fair to say?
That's 100% correct. I'd probably hate myself, and then that would affect me greatly mentally with everything else I did. Like you look at the fact that I helped organize the kids' Christmas party. I love kids, right?
Yeah,
children and babies, and we learn when we go to EMT school or paramedic school, like life begins at conception, right? These are things we learn, right? Scientifically, medically, aside from the religious belief I have. So it's like, I just don't understand. It's not okay with me.
Yeah. And you know, to make it even more of your case, you, before the vaccines were even available, you got and recovered from COVID, and you've taken the antibody test. You have provable, laboratory verifiable immunity to COVID-19. So you probably actually have better immunity than your simply vaccinated colleagues. You are less of a threat by virtue of your immune status than they are. You know, listen, I'm double vaccinated and I've been off work for 3 weeks now because of COVID. I got COVID despite being double vaccinated. This is tearing through departments through the vaccinated. And so the vaccines are not offering the workplace protection that they were advertised to. And so that's what I think one of the reasons why they're getting rid of the vaccine mandate and going to allowing testing so that able-bodied people can come back to work. But let's get back to your situation again. So you've got a family of 5, a lovely wife, been off work since November 1st without pay. Has there been any attempt to provide accommodations for you and like alternate work?
Nothing whatsoever. And I shouldn't say no attempt. I mean, you know, the chief Clancy is a solid individual, and he's checking on me a couple of times and just with email and see how you doing, man, what's going on. And I asked him some questions, and so he looked into it, and and his response back from his bosses and is, we can't do that. We got to follow the policy. And, I guess I just don't understand. And I'm not holding any grudges because I don't know. And I found through life that you can assume things and it just ends up being wrong all the time, right? I'm not going to assume that I know what they're thinking or how they're going about it. I don't understand, right? And that's
right.
where I'm.
Yeah. We shouldn't, I guess, impugn, try to impugn or guess at motives here at all. But the fact of the matter is, you were put on leave of absence without pay. This had everything to do with the AHS policy, because it was after the AHS policy and mandate was implemented that they brought it in, and they followed the date. But yet they didn't amend the date when AHS amended their date and extended the deadline. They extended it twice. Other employers have extended their deadlines to match AHS's because they want to keep their guys employed. Other employers have done their best to try to accommodate guys and provide alternate meaningful work within their organizations to keep them employed. But you have had none of that. So you've been without any income whatsoever for yourself since November 1st. But the other thing other employers are doing is giving guys their lieu time and their banked annual vacation and any of those banks that the department owes you because of the hours you've worked that are contractually owed to you. Have you been able to get at least some money for annual leave or lieu banks or any of this money owed to you to carry you over?
No.
So over Christmas,
I did ask about it. I did ask the chief, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll look into that for sure." And again, the answer he got from the city was no, and I'm like, okay, that's the way.
That blows my mind. So they owe you how many hours does the department owe you? Like, how many hours do you have banked in terms of annual leave and lieu time and stuff? Would you guess?
I have no. We don't do lieu at Leduc, but I had the whole month of December booked off. So I still have 200 hours of vacation.
So you have 200 hours of vacation. So you could have taken the whole month of December off and received a paycheck, basically annual. And you didn't get paid, even though. No. So they wouldn't give you annual leave to help you pay the bills through Christmas?
No, I don't understand why, but
I don't understand that. We're trying not to impugn motives here, but that almost seems cruel and unusual. Like, they have the ability, they owe you the money. It's Christmas time. It's the time of year when Jamie Junod puts on a kid's Christmas party and tries to lift spirits. And the Christmas spirit and kids and all that stuff are like a part of the core of your being. Yeah. And it seems like, if I was trying to wound you, it would be the hardest. It would be at Christmas time, take away all your tools to provide joy for kids. And oh man, I'm just I have no words, Jamie. I'm sorry you're going through this, brother, and I hope we can do something to rectify this. How has this impacted you personally and your family?
Well, I guess the biggest thing is I definitely ask the questions because I'm trying to understand. I was trying to understand, like, why, right? And then it makes me like, well, am I just a crappy employee?
And are you getting any reasons, or are you just getting?
I haven't asked any specific reasons. Right. Is it like, you know what I mean? But it definitely makes me feel like, wait, I must have been a bad employee. They're trying to get rid of me, and this is a good way to do it, or whatever. What things have I done wrong, right? And it definitely makes me feel like they don't value me in any way at all. Any of the contribution I've given to the city and anything, it just makes me feel like absolutely worthless. Even though I've given 16 years of my life to try and help the community, right? As far as my family, like, it makes as a man, it makes you feel more than worthless to not be able to help provide for your family, right? Wasn't able really to provide my kids the Christmas that I normally do, and then my mental health has been pretty negative because of that. So everything is just a struggle every day, right? Like it sucks. And I've never had, funnily enough, from the job, I've never had really PTSD, anything like that. Like I've always been very positive, and whereas this is actually something that's really affected my mental health, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, we get into this profession to provide value and meaning to our lives, and we do that by serving our community, by helping others. And you aren't able to help others, and so where's the meaning in your life? You know, our identity as men, as family men, is we provide for our family. That has been removed from you. You know, you're now it's a huge hit to one's identity and one's ego to now have your wife supporting the family and not knowing what you can do, and, you know, second guessing everything. And then on top of that, your fire department colleagues are your family. I mean, they're not just coworkers, they're guys that you bleed in battle with, that have you have each other's backs. You face the best and worst of humanity, and you know, confront chaos on a daily basis and restore order, and do it together and rely on each other. And that has been removed from you. And so man, I'm just, I feel for you. You know, I wish there was more we could do for you, but you know what we're doing here, audience, is we're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to put a face to the people that are affected by this. And it's not just Jamie here that is affected. It's his community. It's the whole health system. In a sense, we are under the gun right now. We are short-staffed. This Omicron surge, if you want to call it that, is wiping out staff members. It took me out of the game for 3 weeks, despite being vaccinated. You know, it's taking other coworkers out. Our system is at a breaking point. You know, we lost a paramedic a couple of weeks ago, and there wasn't an ambulance within 30 minutes to respond to him and help him out. So, you know, we're all under the gun and short-staffed, and it's no fun knowing that there's able-bodied people ready to work that are actively being prohibited from working. And, you know, what blows my mind too is that, you know, I don't understand why employers, and specifically your employer, isn't just doing some things to try to keep you there. They can keep you at work if they wanted to. Other departments are doing it. Other contractors are doing it. So that has to add insult to injury, especially when you have a service who, on the side of your trucks, your motto is our family serving your family, right?
Our family protecting yours.
Our family protecting yours. So it can't feel like you've got much of a family right now. And you know, like, to me, this is not indicative of family values. This is, you know, I wouldn't leave one of my family members out in the cold when there are things I could easily do to keep them inside, you know, to keep them in the family and part of the group and part of the tribe. I could easily keep you part of the tribe. So there we're at. So guys, here's what we're going to do for Jamie. At Fight for the Front Line, we fight for the front line. We fight for those people, men and women, who fight for you, who have spent a career serving you, who have spent a career risking their lives and their health and their mental health, time with their family, to serve you. And here's your opportunity to help Jamie out. We need to put some pressure on the City of Leduc. And so you'll see down below some links to and emails to town councilors and politicians in the Leduc area. They need to be aware of this. I'm sure they're not aware. If they were aware, I can't imagine that they would let this kind of leadership continue. That I have to believe that they would do the right thing and say, bring our local boy, our local hero, our Christmas spirit, Jamie, our peer fitness trainer, this local kid who has spent his life training and serving his community, who's now facing a life doing what? Going back to being a bartender, going back to doing something less, that this man has incredible amount of training experience, and he's being sidelined right now at a time when we need him most, when the community needs him most. So we're going to ask you to write these people. We're going to ask you to go to our website, fightforfrontline.com, and subscribe as a frontliner so that you can get regular calls to actions and updates about our legal battles and our fight for the front line. And we're going to ask you to donate. We're going to use that money to support legal causes and to support people like Jamie, who are suffering now, having to figure out how to pay bills and put presents under the tree and different things like that. So go to fightforfrontline.com. All the links are going to be down below. And please help us out. Jamie, any last words you want to leave with?
I just say thank you, Tim, for all the help you've given me so far, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to have this opportunity to let people know my story and how it's deeply affected me and my family. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. Hang in there, brother. Help is coming. I sense that the tide is turning. I sense that people are starting to wake up to some of the things that are going on, and are starting to realize that this helps no one at all. It doesn't keep our community safer. Like I said, you're willing to get tested. You already have provable, lab verifiable natural immunity. There's absolutely no logical reason at all to keep you off work. And so hopefully we can get you back to work soon, brother. And thanks for joining us.